The others have asked how to correlate it scientifically because science is growing in its own angle. I'm not saying science angle is correct, but it's growing in its own angle. So if somebody has to bridge the science and spirituality, number one, is it possible? My answer is yes, it's possible. Number two, can we put both into the same basket? Yes, you can put it into the same basket, but still there will be a different layers in the basket. It won't mix like a milk mixing with a water. That's what we need to understand. In my personal life, when I mixed my scientific understandings with what Maharishi is teaching, which is what Rajmohan Ayya and MVR Ayya are giving us, it absolutely matched and it helped me a lot. So I have no problem in sharing, but I'm quite happy to be stopped at any time because I need to speak only within the boundaries of the particular forum. Okay, that's very important for me. So, how I understood the exact things what Rajmohan Haya explained is for a child, when a child is born and then growing like 1 year, 2 year, 10 year, 14 year, 20 years, etc., approximately we take a cutoff of 14 years for both men and women. For boys, it's up like 16 years. For women, it can be as low as even 13 years. So that's where the sexual maturity happens. So in essence, once that's the sexual maturity in a woman, we can easily identify because of the starting of the menstrual cycle. We'll call it as a menarche. While for a man, it's breakdown of the vocal cords, voice box, and then mustache and beard, etc., etc. That's quite easy to understand. So till that point, one of the most important organ in their body is the bone marrow, because we know that bone marrow is the one which produces the red blood corpuscles, white blood corpuscles, and various immune related things, etc. And when an organ is growing, and we need to understand that after that menarche happens or the sexual maturity happens in a boy and a girl approximately the age of 14 or 15, the growth almost stops. Because the men have the testosterone surge, they will have another final push in their height, and maybe the height will be happening till the age of 19. And most commonly for any man or woman, whatever the height they reach at the age of 21 or 22 is going to stay throughout the life. Say for example, let us take the liver is say 1 kg for a man like 40-year-old or 50-year-old. We know that the weight of the liver difference between every human being, and also there is a difference between a man and a woman, but let us take it out and take an average weight of a liver as 1 kg. So the liver attains that 1 kg at the age of 20 to 22 itself. And after that, it is only just replenishing the liver and removing the old hepatocytes, which means liver cells, and replenishing with the new cells. That's it. We can easily understand that growing something is difficult or will require more raw materials or energy compared to maintaining something. If you are driving a car from zero stationary, you have to speed up say up to 60 miles per hour, and then you are driving for next 3 hours in the 60 miles per hour. The amount of energy spent by your car every minute from the time you start at zero speed and reach 60 miles per hour, which we call it as acceleration, is tremendous compared to your driving at 60 miles an hour for the next 3 hours on and on and on. In fact, the modern cars, the energy expenditure happens only during the acceleration, and during the constant cruise control speed of 60 miles an hour, the energy expended is absolutely zero except for a very small fraction due to the friction between the tire and the tarmac. Similarly, in a man and a woman, till they grow, say up to 20, 21, where they reach the maximum height, weight, etc. Weight of course can grow high and low in the 30s and 40s and 50s also. So the liver reaches the maximum size, and then it's only maintenance, just like a car's cruise control. So till they reach the absolute growth phase, the maximum growth phase, bone marrow forms very, very important role of producing the RBCs, WCCs, etc., etc. That's why Maharishi says during the young age, bone marrow forms the most important part of producing this life energy, sexual vital fluid, etc., etc. All these nomenclatures we need to understand the actual crux of it, and don't take that it is something to do with the sex or something like that. It is more to do with the vitality and fluidity. Vitality is the one which keeps a person to grow. Fluidity because it has its own fluidness, because the energy flows from head to toe and vice versa. And once the bone marrow guided growth happens, and once a boy and a girl at the age of 14 and maybe heading towards 20, once the growth stops, then Maharishi explains that the sexual vital fluid comes down from the brain down to the Muladhara. How I understand it, how I applied in my life is the brain indirectly, what Maharishi mentions is the hypophyseal pituitary system. So hypophysis, which is the organ above the pituitary, produces the gonadotropic hormones, and then the pituitary produces the hormones like LDH and FSH, luteinizing hormone, etc. And that stimulus as an endocrine hormone stimulates the gonads, testes in a man and ovaries in a woman. And if there is a over functioning of the testes producing more testosterone, it works as a feedback negative loop to reduce the LH-FSH secretion from the pituitary. So it creates its own loop of self-control. So this is what happens after the age of 14. And once this happens, ovary testes matures to adult level, say at the age of 20-21, and a male and female, when they have an appropriate sexual act, can produce another child. So my understanding, if we have to paint what Maharishi said with science, the bone marrow is the one which helps in the growth of a child till they reach their adulthood. And after adulthood, the brain forms an important part, and the sexual vital fluid or the vitality comes down from there to Muladhara, which indirectly means the ovaries and testes. And scientifically, we can label it with LH and FSH hormones. And then the Muladhara is the one, because of the fluidity and vitality from the brain, gives a man to have an interest in the woman and vice versa. And that's why the sexually oriented love happens. I'm saying that because a father may have love on a daughter and a son. So a sexually oriented love happens because of this Muladhara related sexual organs, which results in attraction. And even if it's not happening, the elders will make sure a man and a woman getting married at one point, which we call it as arranged marriage in India, and then they will start another child. The child will again depend upon the bone marrow till they grow in the age of 14. The cycle repeats. This is how I can explain scientifically. Varganamadan.
Prasadaya.
Well, yeah, thank you. So, I mean, we needed some, I was just taking the benefit of his presence here to get a link to what we know from Vedatrium and to understand the medical facts of it. I just was also curious because Rajmohan Ayya was stating that, the density of bone is maximum in the skull, especially up to the age of 14. And then, when that happens, and I think Dr. Anand, I'm sorry if I don't use doctor and all that, forgive me. For me, in this forum, those things won't matter. I just go with, I consider you as a erythroid or a life force particle.
Absolutely, no problem with that. Anybody can call me Ananda, that's my first name. I'm quite happy with that.
So in that context, I was trying to understand because to be honest, a couple of years ago, I was totally confused about this. And that is when I was troubling Rabindranath Ayya in many ways, either calling him or talking to him and so on. And this Uir Forum has given a lot more clarity in that. So thank you for coordinating this. So yeah, the question I had was, so the density of bone up to the age of 14 is the maximum in the skull. up to the age of 14. I just want to make sure that part is correct. I mean, I'm not the right person, so that is why I was relating it to Ananda here.
No, scientifically speaking, the density of the bone in the skull and all, we can't talk in a scientific forum. So indirectly, what Magrishi is trying to say this is the main thing which leads into the growth phase is from the bone marrow, and once a boy or a girl completes the growth phase, then the maximum inputs are from the brain. It's not really the skull. Skull has nothing to do. Skull is just helping safe covering of the brain, that's it. So there is nothing to do with the skull, and the brain helps by, as I said, hypophyseal pituitary system, and that axis helps in the growth of the organs like Muladhara means testis and ovary. If we are taking something like Manipuraga means like adrenal cortex, and like that we can link so many organs and so many chakras with this hypophyseal pituitary system.
Well, I think that sums it up nicely.